Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast in Game 1 in a series between ParanOid and iNcontrol here on Shakura's Plateau. We have ParanOid spawning as the red Zerg. Meanwhile, we have iNcontrol spawning as the blue Protoss here on Shakura's Plateau. This is, I believe, the GSL version of the map where you are always going to be forced to be cross-spawn, and that's the reason why this one particular Overlord now making its way over into this direction now. iNcontrol on the bottom left-hand side, as I mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, ParanOid on the top right-hand side as a probe now making its way out. Most likely we'll see perhaps a low-ground pylon followed by a forge, and then a fast expansion attempt, just because that this particular matchup does have a lot of space in between these players. The probe from iNcontrol will be able to make it up that ramp in just a moment and get a lot of damage dealt. Also, very nicely done by ParanOid. There was a lot of proxy gateway play, but by moving this one particular Overlord in this direction, he was able to see if there's any proxy gateways over here, but perhaps a proxy gateway could have been set up over here instead. And then a lot more damage could have been had. Anyways, you are going to see another Overlord making its way out over here by ParanOid as drones are continuing to mine. And we'll see whether we go for an early spawning pool, an early gas, or an early hatchery on Shakura's Plateau. We are, in fact, going for a forge by iNcontrol. So iNcontrol obviously going to be able to set up perhaps a gateway and then some photon cannons, preparing to seal off that front door pretty easily. iNcontrol is now sitting with a probe over here at the natural expansion, wanting to make sure that he is able to try to delay the hatchery, but ParanOid instead going for an early extractor as this pylon is now in play. So early extractor definitely means that we will have the metabolic boost down early, but I do not think the Zerglings will come out in time in order to get any pressure onto the front door. Most likely a photon cannon with some additional gateways will be warped in just a moment, as there is now a pylon over here that has been completed. So iNcontrol most likely, or will definitely lose that pylon very, very early on in this battle, or in this matchup. Oh no, going for a cannon rush. Alright, so that was something I was definitely not expecting now. A cannon over here on the low ground, and that will be able to put a lot of pressure. You can see that the Zerglings need to be trained up. The Zerglings do take, I believe, 27 seconds in order, 24 seconds to be trained. So the Zerglings will be popping out of there in just a moment. And as long as that probe is able to delay those Zerglings just a little while, then the photon cannon will be able to come in and just warp in and just put a lot of bit of pressure back on those units. Are we going to get a second photon cannon is another key critical question there, as he needs to be very careful. An Overlord now making its way over and does in fact see, does he see the photon cannon? Yes, does see the photon cannon, and now the Zerglings trying to pull away, and this is going to be a bit of an issue for ParanOid. ParanOid going to be forced to run off of one base for a little bit of time, as a second photon cannon now coming in and another pylon to power both of these cannons here. So we will be seeing one base played as ParanOid now just spawning larvae. The queens perhaps should be walking down first. We need to see some creep tumors down as well, as the creep tumors will allow the queens to have a little bit more movement speed. And as soon as that movement speed is done, or giving the queen that movement speed, what you can do is you can try to rush down with the queen up front, and then have the Zerglings come in from behind the queen, absorbing a lot of that damage as the Zerglings try to finish off the photon cannons there. We are getting a second queen, and now quickly going into roaches, as this is going to become a very, very tech-heavy battle. ParanOid being forced to sit on one base play while iNcontrol. Sitting on one base play as well. He did not get his Nexus. He does have a decent front door, but he is not going to be able to really capitalize on his opponent's confinement to one base play at this time. Production-wise, we are going into a Stargate, so iNcontrol definitely going to try to change things up just a little bit more. Perhaps Void Rays will be coming out as the Zerglings try to run by. I believe the photon cannons were able to take down two of those units, and now a queen going to get some slashing damage onto that probe, as the probe now continues to wander around. The roaches will be coming out of there in just a moment. That probe, however, getting a little bit of a head start, able to run away, and now that those roaches will be coming out, I believe the roaches actually are a little bit slower than a probe, even on creep, and that probe needs to get back down onto the low ground here. We are getting some Zerglings pecking away at the gateway, as the roaches now are still being macroed up. It is going to be 7 roaches in just a moment, so 7 roaches should be able to clear out these photon cannons very easily, trying to focus down those units. One photon cannon now, or one roach already down. Now they are not hitting the same target, so that was a little bit of a mistake there. Perhaps by attacking the same target, he would have been able to get a little bit more kills there, but it looks like the roaches are more than enough. A hatchery already coming into play, and now ParanOid doesn't even really need to deal with these pylons until later. Nexus most likely will be coming in as well, as we are getting one photon cannon. That Stalker was able to at least force those Zerglings to retreat, as the Stalker or the Roaches are now going to be able to push their way forward. One Stalker and one photon cannon will not be enough to try to deal damage and try to take down these Roaches. I believe the Roaches should be able to perhaps 2 or 3 rounds of attack, take down that photon cannon, focus on the Stalker, and then put pressure on that front door. We do have a Void Ray though, so that Void Ray will come out in just the right amount of time. That Stalker is just in the correct position, now trying to get as much damage as possible. It looks as though the Roaches taking some damage there, and because the Roaches were not actually focusing on a single target, iNcontrol going to be able to sit inside his base for a little while longer. 2 pylons have already been destroyed. Taking a look at the losses, 550 versus 250. As a Void Ray now on the move. The Void Ray is spotted by the Zergling at the Xel'Naga Watchtower, and the Void Ray now continuing to push its way out. The Void Ray may actually get some damage onto Roaches, and that's going to be very, very helpful, as well as the Void Ray going to be able to snipe down 2, perhaps even 3 of these Roaches, and 1 Roach already down there. The Queens are now coming over, 3 Queens coming over, and that is not going to work out well. iNcontrol being forced to pull back. The Void Rays did take a fair amount of damage there. And now with 3 Queens on the low ground and more Queens still being trained and a Spore Crawler, it doesn't look like this Stargate play will work out all too well. A Phoenix now being added in, a drone quickly getting shot down and destroyed there. We are going to get another Phoenix. The Phoenix not going to waste the energy on a Graviton Beam. Perhaps the 2 Phoenixes will be able to Graviton Beam 1 of the Queens and then force and then be able to snipe down the other. We are getting some Creep Tumors down as well. The Queens need to make sure that they have a very decent movement speed, as ParanOid now setting down a very strong Creep Highway. The Creep Highway definitely going to help out in that long-term battle, as those Roaches are going to be able to just find their target much more quickly. There is a Spore Crawler in play, though, so the Roaches instead going after the Hatchery, and now the Phoenixes are going to be forced to pull back. 4 Queens in play, and now the Overlord's getting shot down. So Overlord's getting destroyed, and now those Overlords are going to be in a little bit of trouble, as the Queens trying to get some more damage. There is a Spore Crawler here, and that is going to be a problem. That Spore Crawler going to prevent any of those Void Rays from getting that much damage at all. The Queens now trying to make their way over. It looks like a key tech building may get taken down. Queens now making their way over, as the Void Rays being forced to pull back. A lot of damage being absorbed, and that Void Ray almost destroyed there. Harvester count 47, 50 drones versus 30 probes. That is never a good position to be in. iNcontrol, who wanted to get a lot of just early pressure, doesn't seem to be able to do enough in order to slow down ParanOid. ParanOid strategy and ParanOid style right now remind me of Idra. Idra being able to just fend off harassment with a very, very small number of units, currently power droning like a madman. And after getting a very, very strong economy going, he should be able to just attack move with a superior Zerg forces, especially running off of what soon will be 3 bases. 8 more drones now being trained. 58 drones compared to 38 in just a moment. Oh, that's the old version. So yeah, apparently ParanOid just realized that it is the old version here, and he does realize that there are destructible rocks in the back, so he has to be very careful about any units trying to make their way in. Phoenixes still flying around. The Void Rays do not have the Flux Veins. It's been quite some time, so those Void Rays will be forced to just move around very, very slowly without the movement speed upgrade, as we are now going into the Robotics Bay and Colossi. Robotics Bay going to be very important in trying to deal with and counter the Roach army, but Corruptors already joining in on the fight as well. We are at tier 2, but no tier 3 yet, no infestation pit, so those Corruptors have to be very, very careful. If there's not enough Colossus, then what's going to end up happening is that those Corruptors are not going to really be all that useful in the long run. You can see the Phoenix is still flying around, doesn't see anything here, and that's going to be a bit of an issue, as ParanOid may be able to set up that expansion fairly easily. Queens now making the trek over as well. Creep Tumors also being laid down, and that creep is just spreading out so quickly. There is one Spore Crawler that's currently trying to be morphed in. Queens now making their way over, trying to get as much damage as possible, but the Phoenix is going to be able to Graviton Beam coming over 1. And wow, the Corruptors coming in, focusing down 1 Void Ray, another Void Ray going to get focused down as well, as the Corruptors, or the Phoenix is trying to focus and take down the Queen. The Queen will get destroyed here, and the Corruptors, who move a little bit slower than those Phoenixes and are not able to attack and move. We're able to shut down the early Void Rays and the Phoenixes only by losing 2 Queens. So that was a very, very even or very, very good trade by ParanOid. As ParanOid also expands here at the bottom right-hand side of the map. The Corruptors are now trying to come in as well. The Corruptors do see that there are Stalkers over there, and the Stalkers may get some rounds of attack onto those Corruptors. The Stalkers and Sentries finishing off these rocks will be able to establish this Happy Face expansion with the Nexus as a nose. And now Roaches just holding off on the center portion of the map. Tunneling Claws now being researched. iNcontrol has the larger army, or slightly larger army, but no, never mind. Now we see ParanOid getting the larger army. He does also have a stronger economy going into this mid portion of the game, and he should be able to carry that through into the late game unless we get some pressure by iNcontrol. iNcontrol now making its way out with Sentries and Stalkers. The Sentry is going to be very important in perhaps trying to force field and protect themselves from those Roaches. Overlords now making their way out across the fields as well. Overlords move as quickly as a Thor, but since they are flying, it does feel a little bit faster as ParanOid now just getting a large amount of sight across the map, and this is going to be so difficult for iNcontrol. iNcontrol now running off of 2 bases, should be running off of 3 in just a moment, as we are now getting double evolution chambers, level 2 missile upgrades, and now no Carapace upgrades just quite yet, which is a bit of a surprise, as there are double evolution chambers down. Photon cannons now coming in, a second pylon warping in as well, as those photon cannons should be able to do enough damage. A Hydralisk on the high ground, though, should be more than enough to actually destroy these photon cannons, as there's nothing that actually gets sight range up on there. We are getting the Tunneling Claws has been finished. Burrow has been finished as well. Those Roaches are going to be able to force a game of whack-a-mole, as those Roaches regenerate 10 hit points a second while burrowed. Roaches now simply making their way out. Force fields may be coming in. That's going to be very bad. There you go. There's the force fields, as the Roaches being very smart and being very careful to just burrow their way out of that situation. Not too many losses in that engagement there, but ParanOid knows that he cannot put pressure at that time in that particular location. Overlord's also beginning to spawn some creep across the map, as we are now getting some Infestors. The Pathogen Glands about to be finished, so those Infestors will have 75 energy the moment they pop out of there. And now the Corruptors just wandering around. 6,000 total resource army coming in from ParanOid. Meanwhile, about 4,500 or 5,500 coming in from iNcontrol. About even so far. But it's really the difference in the economies and the number of mineral patches currently being mined away. iNcontrol finally transferring his probes over here to the natural expansion, or this middle expansion between the 2 bases, and it's looking like iNcontrol may be able to macro up a very large army. If ParanOid does not finish this early enough, it's going to be very difficult for ParanOid, as ParanOid, it's more difficult for a Zerg player to replenish a 200 food army as opposed to a Protoss. The Protoss is able to essentially warp in a lot of units very quickly, and you can see that he can warp in, 10 food worth of units the instant that 10 food is gone, while the Zerg player will be forced to train. However, taking a look at ParanOid's hatcheries, it doesn't look like Spawn Larva is being kept track of in multiple locations. ParanOid also expanding to this location here and this location here, and that is just going to continue to work out as the Roaches finishing off the other destructible rocks and making this map much more open. So the Roaches will be able to find their targets rather quickly. The Creep Tumors just giving the sight into about 60%, 70% of the map. You can see how much map control ParanOid has, and iNcontrol needs to figure out what he wants to do. And once he gets a 200 food, though, he should push out level 3 weapons upgrade and level 3 armor. That is going to be so helpful, as those Colossi will be taking reduced damage from those Roaches and any Hydralisks that come out. But we are getting Neural Parasite. So Neural Parasite will be able to just pick and turn those Colossi against him. I thought there was more Colossi. I'm not quite sure. Is that it? There's only 3 Colossi in this battle. I could have sworn there was much more. Units, yeah, 3 Colossi. There's only 3. So the Stalkers are going to be making their way down. There are some Spine Crawlers there. Stalkers are now going to be able to engage. Void Rays in position, and now Void Rays making their way out. Zealots taking a beating as well. Phoenixes are nearby to try to absorb as much damage as possible, and now the Phoenixes are getting shot down by those Spore Crawlers. Void Rays getting a lot of damage early on, and now so many drones have been destroyed. Force fields need to be placed down to prevent any of those drones from being able to escape. And now the Roaches now coming in, and very nicely done. It looks like iNcontrol just attack moving with this Protoss ball, able to get a lot of damage across the board, but the Roach is now looking to get some damage, and oh, one Colossus caught in transition. You hate to see that as a bad rally point by iNcontrol, forcing him to lose one of his units, and now there are a lot of infestors. Chain fungal growth may be the death of this Protoss army, as one fungal growth, wait 4 seconds, follow it up with another one as the units are unable to move. Are we going to get another fungal growth over here as the main units are trying to push away at that front door? Photon cannons fending it off fairly well. Infestors just continue to just try to get multiple fungal growths off, and now iNcontrol in a very dominant situation, but there are a lot of corruptors now. The corruptors coming in, finishing off multiple colossi. All the colossi have been destroyed production wise. 14 roaches now joining in on the battle as the armies, both sides getting depleted pretty heavily. Roaches now trying to engage. Will the Roaches be able to get some damage onto those Immortals is the key question. And there is no Observer in this group. The Roaches now coming in from both sides. One Immortal shut down. Another Immortal will get shut down as well, as more Roaches are still being added. ParanOid just simply getting walked over by iNcontrol at this stage, as iNcontrol finishing off Roaches, and now the Stalkers are being forced to blink back. Income wise though, let's take a look. 76 Harvesters versus 58, a stronger economy by iNcontrol. Definitely, as iNcontrol needs to establish a new expansion sometime soon. He does not have that many observers, and that is going to be a problem. As what production wise, we are now going into the Greater Spire. So yeah, Greater Spire underway, and Stalkers with Blink should be able to handle those units unless the Roaches are there. The Stalkers do have that Blink research already. They are already upgraded 3-3. And now with so many Stalkers in play and more still being warped iNcontrol in a very nice position now as also warping in a Nexus here as well. And now you can see army-wise, 157 compared to 164. Total resources, though, ParanOid does have the slightly larger army by about 1,000 total resources at this time. Taking a look at the losses, ParanOid definitely has lost more, but that's also because ParanOid has been spending more as the creep tumors are now getting destroyed. We are getting level 3 weapons upgrade, infestors now coming in as well, so 4 more infestors, and now a lot of roaches to be had. Taking a look at the unit combination, 34 roaches, 15 corruptors in the air, and now trying to find those observers. Observer will get turned around. Oh, a lot of damage being dealt to those corruptors. Poor corruptors, unable to really do anything at all, as we should be seeing some broodlords morphing into play. Yeah, 6 broodlords now coming in, as the Stalkers are now going to be trying to come in as well. Roaches now trying to get some damage, unable to do so. As long as those broodlords are able to hatch in time, in come the corruptors, focusing down the colossi, both sides battling it out. The corruptors are in play there, and more infestors now trying to come in, trying to get more damage onto those Stalkers. The Stalkers just within combat range there, as the broodlords now turning around, and now the Stalkers are able to blink right underneath. More roaches coming back into this battle. Another round of infestors, another fungal growth should be coming in. Oh, not enough energy in time, as the Overseers and as the Overlords now pulling back once more. Stalkers continuing their pressure, and such a large army by iNcontrol. Roaches now simply pushing in. Drones now coming in as well, as the Queens, and now nice force fields preventing any reinforcement. The Roaches are now pulling back once more. ParanOid still in trouble as the Roaches desperately try to run away once more. iNcontrol still does not know about these expansions here, and that is the real reason why ParanOid is still in this game at this time. Drones now coming off production-wise, level 3 weapons upgrade. Stalkers are continuing to battle it out. A Queen may try to get off another transfusion, doesn't do so, and iNcontrol just dominating this battle now. There are a couple of broodlords, but those broodlords should not be able to do all that much at all. And there's the GG by ParanOid. So ParanOid losing game 1 in this best of 3 matchup between ParanOid and iNcontrol here on Shakura's Plateau. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this 1v1 replay. Stay tuned for game 2.